This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Draft zone.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome. You are in the lab room. I, of course, am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the 2015 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where I aim to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2015 NFL Draft by looking at each and every single pick made by said team in the draft, by using our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts in the draft wrap-up series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out. I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get a chance in the life. And so, we'll get an individual grade for each and every single pick made by said team in the draft, get an aggregate score by tallying up the totals for all of those grades, apply bonuses when necessary, and then divide by the number of picks made by that team in the draft. Then you will come up with a final score for that team's draft. We'll move on to the next team in the process picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer at home, are in total control, as this is the You Pick format, or as I like to call it, the Up format. Simply be the first to leave a comment in the comment section stating two things: the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. I don't care how you phrase it, as long as you leave that post in the comment section and are the first and have those two components. That team will be next up on the process in this series. And we're pretty much at the end of this series. It's been a long, very tedious process, but as it always is, it was a lot of fun. And so now we're down to the final two teams after this team has been done. And I say this all the time, don't be last. Have some pride about yourself, okay? So we'll see who gets the piss cup, because to me, you come in last, you get the piss cup. And look, better late than never. Either way, whether you're sipping from the piss cup or you're able to get in there before the last team, don't be Mr. Irrelevant. In the case of the Bills and the Jets, don't be Mr. Irrelevant. Don't be that team. We'll see who is able to avoid being the very last team in the 2015 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. But nonetheless, this team isn't last. And I'm talking about the Arizona Cardinals, the next team up in the series, picked by you, the viewers. This is a team that is on the cusp of doing something in that tough, brutally tough NFC West division. And last year, it's a shame what happened to this Cardinals team, because for 3/4 of the season, they were the best team, not only in the NFC, you could argue in the entire National Football League. Now, I treated the Arizona Cardinals like the Atlanta Hawks for much of the football season last year, as a team that you say, yeah, that's cute what they're doing in the regular season, that's nice, but this isn't a team that's going to be built to get it done in the postseason. I can't speak for anybody else, but I looked at this Arizona Cardinals team much like I did the Atlanta Hawks. Nobody took the Hawks seriously enough to feel like they could come out of the East in the NBA playoffs. I never did for 1 second, and I felt the same way about Arizona. Even with a healthy Carson Palmer, I still thought this team was going to succumb to the pressures of the playoffs, whether they were at home, whether they were playing Seattle, whether they were playing someone else in the NFC, Green Bay. And I just didn't think they were good enough. I didn't think they would be good enough to win the NFC conference and get to the Super Bowl. But I said, this is a dangerous team, and if you catch them on the wrong day, you too can fall victim to losing to the Arizona Cardinals. But they're building some good things. I love what GM Steve Keim has done since he's taken over the controls there. I feel like they've built a roster that's sustainable. We've seen a number of injuries. We've seen guys fall off the table. We've seen suspensions affect this team. We've even seen injuries affect this team, and they've still found a way to get it done. I love the culture change that has taken place under head coach Bruce Arians, and I love Bruce Arians. I think the world of this guy as a head coach in this league, and it's always good to see guys like him get an opportunity and for them to shine the way that he has since he's become this team's head coach. And so this team is in a really good place. You look at their offensive line and what they've done there, and no matter who starts at right tackle, to me that's the only position up for grabs, barring any injury. No matter who starts at right tackle, every single member of this offensive line will be 29 years old or younger. I mean, that's how you want to do it. This was a team whose offensive line was brutally bad just 3 years ago, okay? So they've come a long way. They've built a roster that has a chance to sustain some winning and really have the Arizona Cardinals as one of the preeminent teams in the NFC. And it's because of drafts like the one I'm about to talk about and just shrewd moves made by Keim and company that have this Arizona Cardinals team on the cusp of doing something big in the NFC conference. Let's look at this 2015 NFL draft for this Arizona Cardinals football team and talk more about why this team is heading in the right direction. I'm still a little nervous about their quarterbacking situation. Even with a healthy Carson Palmer, the future still doesn't look bright at that position. That's something that they're going to have to address eventually. And maybe Logan Thomas is the guy that they think he can be. And maybe Logan Thomas is Humpty Dumpty and Bruce Arians is able to put him back together again. We shall see. But let's talk about this draft and why the Arizona Cardinals are continuing to stockpile talent on what is already one of the more talented teams in the National Football League. You start in the first round, 24th overall selection, offensive lineman out of Florida. DJ Humphries is the selection. And his journey to the NFL was one that was somewhat different. A lot of guys take the advice of the NFL Draft Advisory Board, and for good reason. They give you a snapshot as to what your ranking and status is within league circles. They give you the nay or the yay on coming out, and should you come out, is it a good idea for you to come out? Because at the end of the day, it's about maximizing your dollars and your opportunities in the league. The higher draft pick you are, the more likely you are to stick on a roster. You maximize your opportunity to make a living for yourself. Whereas if you decide you want to come out on your own and they tell you, hey, you're looking at 4th, 5th round at best, you probably need to go back to school and see if you can't improve upon that in your senior year. And guys want to not heed to that advice and they want to come out anyway and they end up going undrafted and they don't make an NFL roster. You've basically sealed your own fate. So a lot of guys generally listen to the draft advisory board, and when they tell you, hey, go back to school again, you could be a 1st round pick next year. Right now you're looking at a 2nd, 3rd round grade. Guys usually listen to that. This was a case where DJ Humphries said, you know what, I'm betting on myself. I'm betting on my body of work. I feel like I'm a talented enough football player that if I enter the draft in 2015, I will be someone's 1st round selection. Draft Advisory Board did not agree with him. He still came out anyway. He was rewarded by being selected in the 1st round by the Arizona Cardinals, so good for him. 6'5", 307-pound offensive lineman. And my first pro for him is his zest for the game. He has an energy and a glow about him that allows him to play at a relatively high level because he genuinely loves the game of football. Listening to him talk, throughout the process, watching him on tape, this is a guy that enjoys the game of football. And you know how coaches are about that. They usually ask you, do you love the game of football? How much does it mean to you? He's one of those guys, it's pretty high on the totem pole for him. Football matters. And it's a big part of his life, and you can tell and you can see it in the way he plays the game. He gets out of his stance quickly, okay? So he gets out of the blocks cleanly. That's the next pro. Here's a guy that I saw tape against Florida State, Mario Edwards Jr. I saw tape against Shane Ray, among others. Saw many other tapes that he played in, many other games he played in the 2014 season. And I'm here to tell you that he's a guy that projects well to the next level. He's athletic enough to do all the things you want him to do against the elite pass rushers that are going to be waiting for him at the next level. Stout enough at the point of attack, stout enough at the line of scrimmage to hold his ground against bigger, more huskier, stronger defenders that he will see at the next level. So he brings a little bit of balance in terms of being able to handle the speed rusher to the outside, but also hold his water against guys who want to bull rush him to get to the quarterback. So there are a number of things that I think in terms of his skill set that really allows him should translate well to the next level. One of them is getting out of his stance cleanly, because if you're going to have a chance to go up against speed rushers, and to me, Shane Ray, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, had the most elite first step of anybody in this draft. And I think he sets foot in the National Football League and he's going to have one of the most electric first steps. That's how electrifying and how explosive Shane Ray's first step is. Okay, it's on par with that of a Von Miller, that of a Justin Houston, guys that are perennial sack artists in this league who hunt, who have electric first steps. Shane Ray is going to be among them as soon as he steps foot in the National Football League. His first step is that explosive and quick. So to see DJ Humphries match his quickness on certain snaps, Shane Ray still had 2.5 sacks in that game and wreaked havoc, forced a fumble that was scooped up by his teammate who was taken in the second round by this Arizona Cardinals team, and I'll talk about him in a little while. And Marcus Golden, stripped the quarterback, scooped up by Marcus Golden, taken in for a touchdown. He was given fits, okay? DJ Humphries was given fits by Shane Ray, but he also showed the ability to stay in front of him by sliding his feet, which is the next pro. Good foot quickness. This is a guy that can move his feet, get out of his stance quick enough, and slide and shuffle and get out there to be able to get his hands on Shane Ray enough so that he doesn't bend that corner, doesn't dip that shoulder and get around and get to the quarterback, but be able to get out there enough to where he can put his hands on him, push him around the pocket, and allow the quarterback to step up and feel comfortable in doing so. So there were a number of times where I said, man, he's got it to be able to stand in front of the elite pass rushers with speed. I watched the Florida State tape, and he was able to stand in front of Mario Edwards Jr. for the entire game and pretty much hold his own in the run and the pass game. And so you saw a little bit of what he's going to have to endure at the next level. You saw your classic speed rusher in Shane Ray. You saw your guy that comes with a little bit of both quickness and power in Mario Edwards Jr., the Raiders' second-round selection. And I thought he held his own against both of them. A lot better against Mario Edwards Jr. than against Shane Ray, but it wasn't a display where you felt like, man, this guy's going to struggle at the next level at left tackle if the Cardinals so choose to put him there. And right now, he's not even in the discussion for left tackle in Arizona because they have a rock at left tackle in Jared Veldheer, so that's not even an issue. He'd be at right tackle, which I think would be perfect for him because then you're not really going up against the elite pass rushers, the best of the best in the league. But in this day and age now, you really can't say that because Von Miller lines up against the right tackle on a consistent basis. Justin Houston lines up against the right tackle on a consistent basis. Teams flip-flop their pass rushers and you don't know where guys are going to line up from play to play. And then you got some guys that predominantly line up in front of the right tackle, like the ones I just mentioned. And so you can't run and hide anymore. If your tackles can't protect, or they can't get out there and stop a speed rusher, or they can't stop a bull rushing pass rusher, you're going to be exposed. And so whether he's on the right side or the left side, it really doesn't matter. He's going to have to stand up and do his job. And that's not even a situation that is etched in stone. Bobby Massey was solid for you last year at right tackle, and the Cardinals feel really good about what they have on the offensive line. This was an offensive line that, like I mentioned before, 3 years ago was trash. Now you look at this team, no matter who starts at right tackle, because to me that's the only position up for grabs along this offensive line. You go out and get Mike Iupati in the offseason and add him to an offensive line that has gotten better each and every year, Cooper, and you're really building this thing the right way. If Bobby Massey starts at right tackle, every member of this offensive line is going to be 29 years old or younger. If DJ Humphries starts along that offensive line, then it brings the average of the offensive lineman down even more. And this is a young offensive line that this team feels like can grow together for the next 3 or 4 seasons. Everybody's under contract. This is a really good situation for the Arizona Cardinals. And Bobby Massey's contract is up next year. If he goes out, wins this job in the camp, and performs stellar in the upcoming season, he's going to want a big contract. Somebody's probably going to give it to him. And by drafting DJ Humphries, you put yourself in a position where you say, hey, you go ahead, chase that money. We're fine. We've got a guy sitting in the wings waiting. And really, Steve Keim has already said that this draft pick was really a 2016 pick for us. Like we drafted him with every intention of not playing this guy in 2016 unless we need to. He's on a need-to-play basis, essentially. But if he goes out and wows them in camp and outperforms Bobby Massey, it's his job. But I just don't see that happening. I don't see him coming in and unseating a guy that's a veteran in this league that got it done at a high level last year. But we'll see. But he has a solid and effective punch as his last pro. And so to go with that foot quickness and the ability to get out of the stance, there's a guy that can hit you with a jolt and stop you right in your tracks. And to me, that's also a big time pro for an offensive lineman, period. If you can hit a guy with a punch and have it stop the defender in their tracks, you've done yourself a huge service, and it's going to help you be able to win on most snaps if you have an effective punch. And that's exactly what DJ Humphries has. You go to his cons. His hands are too high when he blocks a lot of times, and this is one of those minor technique flaws. He needs to come from here to here. If he can get his hands pad level, lock them up, he should be fine. But especially against Florida State, I saw the hands up here way too often. One time, his hands were so high that they actually slipped off the pad of Mario Edwards Jr. He was able to dispose of DJ Humphries, knock him down on the ground, and get in the backfield. So those things can happen when your hands are too high. I could easily see this man having, if he were to play in his rookie season, easily could see this guy picking up 5 or 6 hands to the face penalties. The way they were calling him last year on offensive linemen, he would pick up 4 or 5 hands to the face penalties just by his hands being up too high and sliding up into the face and neck area of the defender that he's trying to block. He can be bull rushed and he can whiff. And I've just basically explained to you how this happens. Because his hands are so high, what that allows the defender in front of you to do is to get his pads. And it's all about leverage. I talk about leverage all the time. That's the name of the game in the trenches. If you give up leverage, you're giving up your advantage against the man in front of you. And so if your hands are high, I can put mine lower. I've got the leverage advantage now. I'm up under your pads, you're not under mine. And so I can drive you back, and that's what happened to him against Florida State with Mario Edwards. At times, it wasn't something that occurred on a consistent basis, but it did happen enough for me to see that that's a problem that he's going to have to fix. And then he can whiff. And it happened to him against Shane Ray. It happened to him against Mario Edwards Jr. one time in that game where he just flat out missed. Hands were too high. He came out. Guy was able to slap the hand. Look, I can see your hands, line of sight. If you put your hands in my face, I know where your hands are. I'm going to knock them down. If you put them down here, harder for me to come down here than it is to just go like this. So it was easy for Mario Edwards Jr. to say, man, get that out of here and get back in the backfield. Same thing with Shane Ray. He's already fast. He doesn't need you to give him any more advantages to get to the quarterback. And you being up high with your hands was definitely something that Shane Ray took advantage of. Is he racked up 2.5 sacks in that game against Florida. One of those being a strip like I talked about already. And the last pro is he missed some time. This is a guy that dealt with some nagging injuries at Florida. In 2014, he missed 2 games with a bone chip in his ankle. And in 2013, he had a sprained MCL, forced him to miss 5 games to wrap up that season. So you're dealing with a guy that's dealt with some injuries, that's missed some time at Florida. Let's hope that that doesn't continue to rear its ugly head as he makes his way to the National Football League. And he's also inexperienced as an offensive lineman. Again, he came out early. He's missed some time. This isn't a guy that's coming to you with 42 starts, in 48 games at Florida. This is a guy that's coming to you with, 19 starts over the last 2 years, which doesn't really make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. And so, again, this is the type of player where it wouldn't hurt him to sit down for a year, learn the nuances of the National Football League, adjust to the speed of the game, and also get better at his craft. And then if Bobby Massey decides to chase the money in free agency next year, You got a guy waiting in the wings to step in, and the offensive line does not miss a beat. In the first round, 24th overall selection, offensive lineman out of Florida, DJ Humphries for me. Is hit hard. He's hit deep. Out of here. The home run. This is a guy that I think with some fine tuning, and I love the fact that he didn't have to play right away. I think this is a really good situation for him versus him falling one more spot. He's from the Carolina area. Had he not been picked at 24, no doubt in my mind, he's a Carolina Panther off the board at 25. He's going to have to start right away if he's a Carolina Panther. And I don't know if that would have been the best thing in the world for DJ Humphries, whereas he comes to Arizona and he doesn't have to play right away. If nobody gets injured and Bobby Massey continues to play the way he did last season, I don't see why this guy doesn't get to sit down, have a redshirt year in the league, and learn and get better at his craft. I think that's an ideal situation for DJ Humphries and where he is in his development, like the pick, and I think that's a good selection in the first round for the Arizona Cardinals. Good value. When you're picking at the end of the first round, you're looking to get maximum value. I think they were able to do that with the DJ Humphries selection. You go to the second round, 58th overall selection, defensive end out of Missouri, Marcus Golden. Here's a guy, 6'2", 260 pounds, defensive end, outside linebacker. Which one is he? I'm not sure. Pretty much think I know what the answer is to that question. Shorter arms. You're looking at a team that runs a 3-4 defense. He's not going to set the edge as a 5 technique. I think he's more suited to play outside linebacker. And I really think when it's all said and done, he's going to take a guy like Matt Shaughnessy's position on this football team, come in, set the edge in the run game, be physical at the point of attack, get pressure on the quarterback. There's a lot of things that this guy brings to the table. He was the yin to Shane Ray's yang in Missouri, and I think that those two really complemented each other very well, because what the other one really didn't possess and didn't do well, the other one did. So they kind of overcompensated for one another, and they really made beautiful music together at Missouri. And much like Shane Ray, and I talked about that with Shane Ray in his breakdown, he had to buy his time in Missouri. There were a lot of pass rushers at Missouri, including Shane Ray. While he was there, Coney Ely and of course Michael Sam come to mind as well. Guys that were in front of him that got playing time. So he had to buy his time in Missouri, and he did that. He got his opportunity, he took advantage of it and ran to the National Football League as a second-round pick. As you look at this guy, physical football player is the first pro. I look at him and I just see a guy that is physically imposing, sets the edge in the run game, plays with a level of physicality that you would not expect from a guy that used to be a running back, but that's exactly what he is. And he comes and he brings a certain level of toughness that you need as a defender. He has that, and I thought he was the heart and soul of that Missouri Tigers defense. Sets the edge in the run game. I've already really explained that a couple of times already. This is a guy that is stout at the point of attack, does a really good job of stacking and shedding and getting in the backfield. He lives on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and so he's a guy that sets the edge in the run game. A lot of times when Shane Ray would get tackles for losses, guys would run initially away from Shane Ray. They would not block him on the backside. They would run to Marcus Golden's side. He would set the edge, funnel them back towards Shane Ray. Here comes Shane Ray backside, makes the tackle in the backfield, because he would set a mean edge. There would be nowhere for that back to go. They turn around looking for some reverse the field action. Here comes Shane Ray from behind to clean up the mess. So he's a guy that sets the edge in the run game, and I fully expect him to do the same for this Arizona Cardinals team. This is what makes him a second-round pick. This next pro is what makes this guy stand out from a lot of players at that same position in this draft. His relentless motor. I think of all the players that are covered in this year's draft, and I may be missing one or two players that have the same type of motor that this guy has, I don't think anyone in this draft, though, had more plays made off of sheer hustle than Marcus Golden. If you look at his sacks, you look at some of his tackles for loss, a lot of them were generated off of sheer determination and just relentlessness. The inability to give up on a play, to just keep pressing, keep running, keep chasing a play from behind. You see the 2013 interception against Toledo. He's chasing after a quarterback. Quarterback's trying to backpedal and get away from Marcus Golden. They try to throw the football, and Marcus Golden is able to hit him. Ball flies up in the air. He said, oh, look what I found. Picks the football off, takes it 60 yards to the house for a touchdown. You go to that Florida scoop and score that I talked about with Shane Ray. Shane Ray beats DJ Humphrey around the edge, gets to the quarterback, knocks the football out of his hands. Marcus Golden, hustling from the other side of the field on the play, comes, scoops up the football, takes it into the end zone from about 30 yards out for a touchdown. He's a playmaker. That's the next pro actually. And so go ahead and lump those two in right now. He's a guy that finds his way around the football. First play early in the game against Texas A&M in that bowl, or Minnesota in that bowl game. He gets in the backfield, knifes in, penetrates. 3 Missouri Tigers meet at the running back, but only one of them decides it's a good idea to strip the football out, and that's Marcus Golden. Ball comes out, Missouri recovers. They take control of that game early, never look back. And so he's a playmaker, and he just hustles. He's relentless. His motor never stops. And to me, that's why this guy is a second-round selection. Heavy collegiate production. Only 2 years at Missouri. Okay, went to a JUCO for a couple of years, had to get his grades right, comes to Missouri. He's from the Kansas City, Missouri area, so it was like a big homecoming for him. He never wanted to leave the area in the first place, but had to because he didn't have the requisite grades to get into Missouri. Does what he needs to do, gets his situation squared away, comes back to Missouri for his final 2 years of college football, and balls out. 16.5 sacks, including 10 of those a season ago in 2014, 33 tackles for loss, including a whopping 20 of those in 2014, and 5 forced fumbles. This guy gets the job done, and again, it's not always flashy, it's not going to be very flamboyant, but I don't care about that. I'm a results-based guy, and at the end of the day, Marcus Golden gets results. And that's something that I talked about with Nate Orchard, second-round selection for the Cleveland Browns. He's not a flashy guy. You're not going to hear his name. When you start rattling off all of the elite pass rushers in the 2015 NFL Draft, you're going to start talking about Shane Ray. You're going to talk about Randy Gregory. You're going to talk about Vic Beasley. You're going to talk about Alvin Bud Dupree. You're going to talk about all those guys. You're not going to list Nate Orchard, but at the end of the day, he might be the best of that entire group. Same thing bodes for a guy like Marcus Golden. Not going to be flashy, not going to be a guy that you start talking about with elite this or elite that, but there's a lot of substance here with this football player as we go to his cons. Not the greatest athlete, and I just kind of spoke to that. I kind of touched on that briefly. Not the greatest athlete in the world. He's not going to wow you with his first step. He's not going to blow by anybody with elite quickness or speed or any of those things. 4'9", 40. 4'9", yes, a 4'9" is what he ran at the combine. Of course, he cleaned that up in his pro day. He has been reported at a 4.77. I've even seen as low as a 4.67 with this guy. At the end of the day, he's not going to win with speed at the end of the day anyway. His job is to be crafty. His job is to win with relentlessness. His job is to win with power, and he does that better than most in this draft. He's still sharpening his skills as his final con, okay? I talked about him being a running back to start out his college career, made the switch and transition to outside linebacker / defensive end. And some of those running back skills you see in some of his maneuvers to get into the backfield. A lot of the times when he wins going to the inside. I'd like to see him win going to the outside a little bit more often. But he's a guy that I want to see him sharpen his skills, fine-tune some things, come up with some more moves, come up with a plan. I don't think he usually rushes with a plan. He's just relentless. He figures out what he's doing on the fly, and he's so relentless and doesn't give up that he finds a way to the football on most snaps. So guys like that are going to be rewarded for their hustle, and that's why Marcus Golden is a second-round pick in the 2015 NFL Draft. In the second round, 58th overall selection, outside linebacker / defensive end out of Missouri. Marcus Golden, for me, is a triple, a really good football player, brings a lot to the table. I want to see how the Cardinals decide to utilize this guy. I feel like he's an outside linebacker. Shorter arms usually means you can't put down your hand in the dirt and play at defensive end. And again, when you're talking about a 3-4, the defensive front, you're looking at a guy with a lot more girth at the 5 technique versus a guy that's only 260 pounds trying to set the edge in the run game from that position versus doing that against a tight end and by, in those type of things. So I think he's an outside linebacker that's going to probably be in the mold of a Matt Shaughnessy in this Cardinals defense. You go to the 3rd round, 86th overall selection, running back out of Northern Iowa, David Johnson is the pick. My goodness, this is an impressive running back here. 6'1", 224 pounds at the running back position. You know how I feel about upright backs. I love them. Love them. Love my upright backs. And this is one of those guys that's a taller back, but does a lot of big things in the running game. Great feet is the first pro. And with those great feet comes some other things that he brings to the table, and I want to lump them in together. Great feet. The next pro is tremendous vision and balance, and the next pro that I want to lump in with those other two is agility. Here's a guy that I had a pleasure watching. I almost got drunk off his tape. I watched so much of his tape that I almost got drunk, okay? I watched one tape, which led to another, which led to another, and then I said, all right, that's enough. I don't need to watch anymore. And I was like, just one more glass of David Johnson. Just one more glass. I promise I won't have another. And then I would have one more, and then I said, you know what? I'm getting out of control. I've got other guys that I need to break down. I was having too much fun watching this tape. And so they actually beat his team, Northern Iowa, beat the 2 teams that eventually would meet in the Division 2A or 1AA championship in Illinois State and North Dakota State. So they beat both of them, and they beat both of those teams on the legs of David Johnson. He was stellar in both of those games. And so his feet are tremendous. And you saw him in those 2 games in particular where he sees things with that tremendous vision and balance. And he's able to get to those cutbacks and make guys miss because they're over pursuing to the play side. They think the play is going this way. All the while, David Johnson is looking backside and he's seeing a cutback lane developing. Nobody else is paying attention to that. He stops on a dime, cuts it back, and there is a huge avenue there for him. And once he gets out of space, this guy is a terror to deal with. Against Illinois State, and I'm really kind of bleeding into another pro of his, but I just have to talk about this. There's a kickoff return, and he makes the first guy miss. He puts his shoulder down, guy falls off of him. He's tough with the football in his hands. And after that guy misses, David Johnson proceeds to get to the outside. And then you see a flat out foot race break out down the sidelines. And this is one of those situations where who's faster, who wants it more. And David Johnson went into straight track athlete mode. Okay, you can tell there's some kind of track in his background, whether it's high school track or he did some collegiate track. There's some kind of track because he turned into a straight track athlete on those boys. And they were chasing him, and one of those guys had an angle, and David Johnson just flat out outran him. You saw the head bobbing, you saw the arms pumping explosively, and he turned it up. It looked like American Pharaoh down the stretch of the last leg of the Triple Crown when he pulled away from the rest of those horses, and you knew he had just become the latest and greatest Triple Crown winner. He just ran away from the rest of the players on the field, and it was just beautiful to watch. He turned it up to another gear that I didn't know he had, okay? Because when you tell me a guy's running 4.5 flat, generally speaking, that's not what it looks like. It doesn't look like that. That was not 4.5 flat, what I saw him do against the Illinois State team on that particular play. That was not 4.5 flat. Now, don't ask me what it was. It looked more like 4.45, 4.43, but it damn sure wasn't 4.5 flat. And so he was moving, and he is explosive, and that's what that great vision and speed and the balance and all of those things, the agility. There's one play against, I want to say it's North Dakota State as the team I want to say he's playing against. And he runs to the outside, and it literally looked like he was trying to lose an Achilles tendon. He stops on a dime so aggressively, and they play on turf. Okay, their home field is on turf. He stops so aggressively, puts the brakes on. Two defenders run by him. He actually takes the football that's in his hands, lifts it up because the defender is going by him and he can't stop. David Johnson stops on the dime, lifts the football up so he can go around the football player and goes up the field and picks up another 5 to 7 yards. It is gorgeous. It looked like it hurt, and only a few players can do that. Only a handful of players can stop like he did on the dime and then get back to top speed as quick as he did. And the guy is phenomenal, and his feet, his vision, his balance, agility, all off the charts. Excellent hands, okay? All of those things are great, and then he also brings the ability to catch the football. I saw at least 2 one-handed catches. One of them was with his left hand. Mind you, he's a right-handed dominant back. Sticks the left hand out there, deadens the impact, catches it with one hand. The guy had so many catches at Northern Iowa. He was such a big part of their offense. He left school with 15 school records. They depended on this guy. He was like the Matt Forte of college football. This was Mr. Do-It-All. Catch the football, run the football, score touchdowns, returning kickoffs. He did everything. It was almost like Eddie Murphy or Arsenio Hall in Coming to America. Like, what role didn't you play in the movie, okay? He was everywhere. You go to his next pro, athletic freak. Okay, and I already talked about some of the freakish things I saw him do on tape. He loves the hurdle guys, and here's why he loves the hurdle guys. 41.5, so 41.5-inch vertical leap. Yikes. Wowzers. 4.5 40 speed, I've already mentioned that. He looks like he runs faster than that on game days. 10.07 broad jump and 25 reps of 2 1/4. Most offensive linemen are lifting about 25 reps. This is a running back we're talking about, and that's how strong this guy is. And so he runs through arm tackles. There are so many different layers and dimensions to this guy's game. It's ridiculous. You go to his next pro, outstanding collegiate production. Let me run some numbers by you so you can really grasp and wrap your brain around how big this guy was for Northern Iowa and their success while he was at school. 4,682 yards in his collegiate career. Yes, 4,000, including 3,000-yard seasons throughout his career in a row. 49 touchdowns rushing. These are just rushing numbers now. Okay, these aren't all-purpose numbers. These are just rushing numbers. 49 touchdowns. So you're talking about basically 12 touchdowns a year for this guy at Northern Illinois, or excuse me, Iowa. Big time production. That's just rushing though. Let's get to some of these receiving numbers, shall we? 141 catches. Yikes! 141 catches for 1,734 yards. So we're talking about wide receiver numbers now, okay? So we've went into the wide receiver stratosphere, and teams actually wanted this guy to come to their school and recruited him as a wide receiver. And he started out as a wide receiver, got bigger, and said, you know what, I'm a running back. And you see, so he's got the receiving skills though to go out and get it done, and those numbers tell the story. 14 touchdowns to go with those numbers receiving. 14 receiving touchdowns in his career. And so, I mean, we're talking about over 60 touchdowns total if you're just talking about, and we're not even talking about special teams. That's a whole nother animal in itself, and that's his last pro as well, special teams value. I already told you about the touchdown run against Illinois State and how he turned it up and it had another gear. The guy is just dynamic. He brings special teams value to the mix. Even though on this team, with all the team speed that you have, there's no reason for this guy to even sniff the field as a returner of any kind, because you've got guys on this roster that are going to do that for you. But man, this guy is special. You go to his cons, and there's only 2 for me. No wiggle. He's not going to make anybody miss out in space with a juke move or a spin, even though he had a cute spin against Illinois State to really seal that game, late in that ball game. He breaks a run up the middle, and one of his teammates blocking down the field right by the goal line, and instead of him taking some contact and getting in the end zone, he just put on a cute spin, boop, and walked into the end zone. It was gorgeous. But there's no wiggle here. There's no shakes. He's not going to undress anybody out in space. He's not pulling anybody's pants down and laughing at him. He's either going to run through your tackle, run around you, or you're going to get him on the ground. but this is a physical runner with some speed to match, and he's not juking anybody. There's no wiggle here. And he's a little loose with the football. That's my last con with David Johnson. Of running backs in the 2015 draft, he had like the 7th highest fumble rate. And I'm not going to sit here and harp on that because I don't think it's a legitimate, huge problem. It's not like he's Nile Davis, who came into the league, 2-3 years ago from Arkansas with a huge fumbling problem, and he's fumbled in the National Football League. I don't think it's that type of situation. But there were a couple of times where I saw him. I told you he exposed the ball one time like this, brought it over. And I don't think he was ever in danger of fumbling, but you can never tell who's behind you. You don't want to start creating bad habits, having the football out here. What if a guy was coming from behind in heavy pursuit, hits you while you're like this, ball comes out? I mean, those things happen. There was one time he ran through the hole. He had the ball up here, and he didn't get the snap cleanly, first of all. So you would think, if I got the snap a little suspect, and I'm already kind of bobbling the football, I'm going to go ahead and protect the ball. I'm going through a hole where their defenders' hands are being stuck out. Never know what can happen. Somebody get their paw on the football, knock it out. He's got the ball up here, and a guy hits him, and the ball kind of moved a little bit in his hands, and then he had to put 2 hands on it just to keep it from squirting out of his arms. He can be a little loose with the football. I want to see him clean that up, put the football away. You're around other defenders. Contact is coming. Protect the football. Don't allow it to hit the ground. There was one play where they said he was down by contact. I don't know about that. Ball came out, recovered by the opposing team, but they said he was down by contact, so that wasn't really in question. But at the end of the day, man, I'm in love with David Johnson. I think the Arizona Cardinals need a running back. They could have used this guy last season. And you know how I feel about Andre Ellie. Now you add a guy with pure speed like Andre Ellie with a guy that has a little bit of speed and a lot of power, and that's a hell of a combination. In the 3rd round, 86th overall selection, running back out of Northern Iowa. David Johnson for me is hit hard. He's hit deep. You can put him on the board. Yes, it's a home run for the Arizona Cardinals in the 3rd round. This is what the game's been missing in Arizona. And every down back like that. I don't think Andre Ellie is an every down back. I think he's a specialist. I think he's a guy that you want to touch the football in numerous different situations and sets. But I think this is the guy that could be the bell cow for you moving forward. And that's what you need in Arizona. An every down ball toter. Meet David Johnson. You go to the 4th round, 116th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Delaware State. Rodney Gunter is the selection, 6'5", 305-pound defensive lineman. I was surprised, as it was Rodney Gunter. He didn't expect to get the call. The man said, I passed out for about 3 minutes when I heard my name called. When I got the phone call from Steve Keim telling me to watch the TV because they're about to call my name because I'm about to be drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, I was in disbelief, I was in shock, and I almost passed out, and I did pass out for about 3 minutes. I mean, that's real. That's scary and real, and it's exciting and it's exhilarating because you're hearing a guy and the raw emotions of being selected on draft day, and he earned this. You put on the tape, he worked for this, and he deserved to be drafted. Let's talk about it. Explosive off the snap. Here's a kid that I turned on the tape and I was blown away by what I saw. Because I hear Delaware State, and I'm from an area where the MEAC, which is the conference that he played in, Mid-Eastern Atlantic Conference, something like that. That's what the MEAC stands for, if I'm not mistaken. And Norfolk State and all of those teams play in that conference, and you're not Jackson State. It's a lot of, you're expecting a lot of bad football, and you're expecting him to just be, the best of the worst, but that's not what it was. This guy looked like he could have played in the SEC, okay? This guy looked like he could have played in the Big Ten, okay? He looked like he was a guy that maybe slipped under the radar because he wasn't heavily recruited. Want to know why he wasn't heavily recruited? Only played 1 year of high school football. So his backstory is he's the oldest of 3 children. Mom was, a single parent mom. She did all she could to really help their situation, but it wasn't enough to make ends meet. So he took up a job washing dishes and being a waiter. And so he wasn't able to play football in high school. It was killing him because he loved the game of football, wasn't able to play until his senior season of high school, and it was good enough to get him a scholarship at Delaware State, but of course those big programs aren't going to come calling after 1 year unless you're some kind of athletic freak. And at 6'5", he wasn't 305 pounds when he got out of high school. He probably wasn't even 6'5" yet. You know, he probably grew into that frame, and so nobody was going to come calling. He wasn't going to get any phone calls, and he's from Florida. FIU wasn't calling. You know, Florida Atlantic wasn't calling. None of those teams were calling. You know, Florida State and Florida won't go come calling. So he had to go to Delaware State to play football. And I think this is one of those cases of a guy just not being exposed enough, because if he had more exposure, he would have landed somewhere more prominent, because his talent and his skill set says he should have been playing some major college football. Violent hands, okay? So he's explosive off the snap, and then to match that, he has very violent hands. His hands are the reason why he's being selected in the 4th round. What I saw him do to some players was ridiculous. Lot of viciousness with his hands, where he takes a guy and he's shaking him like a rag doll, like literally shaking the life out of an offensive lineman in front of him and then throwing him out of the way. Get out of here, okay? Ball carrier's going that way. I got somewhere to be. Get out of here. I gotta go. And so he's throwing guys around. He's quick off the snap, rip move back into the backfield. He lives on the other side of the line of scrimmage, which is another pro for this guy. And because of that quick get off, because of the violent hands, it allows him to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage and make plays in the backfield. And the next pro is his pursuit. I love this guy's pursuit and his effort. So he wins initially off the snap, plays going away from him to the outside. He will chase all the way down the line. I saw him chase a running back down from behind. I saw him chase a quarterback down from behind. Now, a lot of times, his method of madness, getting guys on the ground, was horse collar. I'm gonna grab you from behind, and I can't be mad at you. If you're trailing on the play, you're not the fastest guy. They're trying to get outside, and your only hope is grabbing that horse collar. Do what you gotta do. I would like you to not do that, because at the next level, they're gonna ring you up for that. But he was able to get away with it a couple of times. But he tracks guys and pursues them from behind like nobody's business. Very impressive trait for a guy his size, to get outside, run quarterbacks down. And we're not talking about slow white quarterbacks. We're talking about option quarterbacks. We're talking about brothers. I just told you he played in the MEAC. You're not going to run into too many white guys at Jackson State. Okay, you're not going to run into too many guys that's not running around trying to make plays for their football team. He was running them boys down from behind and dragging them down. So this is a really athletic defensive tackle. Start at the point of attack, okay? That's the next pro. I talked about the violent hands. Those hands allow him to stand guys up at the line of scrimmage and really give him a chance to win at the point of attack, and that's exactly what he does. He's versatile, played defensive end and defensive tackle at Delaware State. They moved him all along that defensive line. I feel like the Arizona Cardinals are going to do the exact same thing with this guy. I think he has a very high ceiling, which is his last pro. Upside is tremendous. You're talking about a guy that only has 5 years of real experience playing football, 1 in high school, 4 in college. There's a lot left for him to tap into. He's not done growing as a football player. There's a lot to be excited about if you are the Arizona Cardinals. His cons, he's raw. That's the first thing you think of. I just told you he didn't have a lot of background in high school. You get to college, he's still got to learn and still iron out some things. I think you feel like he's still rough around the edges. You clean up some things, you can have yourselves a football player in your hands. And the next con is development of skills. I think he's a guy that wins so often with quickness and his violent hands that he didn't develop anything else. He didn't come up with an array of moves to help him get into the backfield and be disruptive. So if you're the Cardinals, that's the next plan of action for him, is to develop some moves, develop his skills, and turn him into a multifaceted football player and not a one-trick pony that's just looking to be more physical than the guy in front of him. And level of competition, I mean, that goes without saying. He played at Delaware State, so you hope that he's able to use that same quickness and win. You're hoping he can use that same violentness in his hands and win. You're hoping he can have that same pursuit and catch a guy from behind. Now we're talking about world-class athletes. We're not talking about the same guys you were chasing at Jackson State, at Norfolk State. You're talking about some serious athletes. So we'll see if he can catch guys from behind like he was doing at the collegiate level. Level of competition going to be a huge question for him moving forward. But in the 4th round, 116th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Delaware State, Rodney Gunter for me is a triple. Very impressive tape. I like the way this guy fills out his frame. He doesn't look like a 305-pound defender, but that is what he is, and this is a guy that moves well for that size. So go to the 5th round, 158th overall selection, defensive end out of West Virginia. Shaquille Riddick is the selection. I said defensive end, that's what he was at West Virginia. That's what he was at Gardner-Webb, which is where he transferred from. That's not what he's going to be in the National Football League. His frame isn't one that's going to turn into 260 pounds. I think he's a 250-pound defender. I think he's an outside linebacker. I think he's a specialist, a guy you put on the field to get pressure, which is what you lacked a season ago, guy. You manufactured pressure last year by blitzing. That's what you did, and that's what Todd Bowles did to get himself a job in New York. He applied pressure by blitzing. You need to be able to win one-on-one matchups. You need to be able to say, hey, line up in front of that guy, win, get to the quarterback. You couldn't do that. You haven't been able to do that since John Abraham left the field. So now here's an opportunity for you to get some guys, and that's what you've done in this draft, and Marcus Golden and now Shaquille Riddick. Get you some guys that can probably get to the quarterback, and we'll see what he's able to do. 6'6", 244-pound defensive end / outside linebacker. And really, I should just call him an outside linebacker because that's what I think he's going to be at the next level. Long, lanky defender is the next pro. He's a long guy. At 6'6", do I really need to explain to you why this is a long defender you're dealing with here? Extremely long, and with that length, he wins with that length. That is the next pro. This is a guy that wins with his length. His length is the reason why he's even a draftable player, because without his length, he's an ordinary football player. But with those long limbs, with those long legs, he wins one-on-one matchups by extending his arms, getting into the body of the offensive lineman, and either driving them back. And surprisingly, he has a thin-looking frame. You look at him, and he's 244 pounds, and you're saying to yourself, he's probably not started the point of attack. He's probably not pushing anybody around, but yet he started the point of attack. That's one of his last pros, and I was actually surprised because I thought he would be bullied in the run game, and they would take him off the field at West Virginia. He wasn't an every down player. He would start games, and he would play first and second down and be on the field for 3rd and long. And then you might not see him for 2 straight possessions. They take him off the field and he wouldn't play, and then they would bring him back on the field. And so he was a guy that they platooned in and out of the game because maybe they felt like he wasn't as started the point of attack. Maybe they were trying to get other guys in the game. I just perceived it as someone that you felt like was a specialist. And so you bring him in situations where you feel like he can impact the game, and then you take him out when you feel like he's a liability. And I feel like that's something that I didn't really see on tape. I saw a guy that was starting the point of attack, maybe not making as many plays as I would like to have seen him make, but for 1 year at West Virginia, keep in mind, he came from a JUCO. He came from, or a smaller school, excuse me, not a JUCO, came from a smaller school at Gardner-Webb, was 5th in, and that's a Division I AA school, 5th in the Buck Buchanan Award running, which is given to the best defensive player in Division I AA. And so he came over from Gardner-Webb, transferred over to West Virginia to finish out his collegiate career, had 1 year eligibility left, and he made the most of it. He had 7 sacks and 11 tackles for loss in 1 year at West Virginia, so he had really good production in 1 season. So he's a long strider, okay? That's the next pro. And the long strides that you see from him help him with this next pro that I have, which is pursues the football. He has pursuit angles that he's able to eat up. If a running back is able to outflank him to the outside, you're like, okay, he's got him. He can run that angle down by eating up a lot of space with huge long strides. Because I told you he's a long defender. His length is the reason why he's draftable. I've already said that. Not just his arms, but his legs as well. He takes these huge long strides and steps, and before you know it, he's closed the distance and he's grabbing the guy and dragging him down to the ground. So he's a long defender, and that's what's going to help him win at the next level. You go to his cons. No move catalog. I only saw him win with length. I did not see him win with anything else. He's not an explosive, quick guy. He's not going to wow you with his speed. He's a solid pass rusher, but a lot of the things that he does is predicated by his length. His ability to go sideline to sideline, length. His ability to be stopped at the point of attack, length. His ability to win and get in the backfield. A lot of the times I saw him get his sacks, he was either unblocked or the guy blocking him in front of him was inferior, and he was able to use length, quickly get him out of the way, get to the the quarterback. So it wasn't a situation where I saw him beating guys with a number of different rush moves. He just won with raw ability, and so I don't think that's going to get him by at the next level. He's going to have to develop into a pass rusher because that's going to be his calling card at the next level. If he can't get to the quarterback, he will not last in the National Football League. 1 year at West Virginia, 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. I've already mentioned this, but that's a con because he played 1 year of high-level college football. And I told you, he had spot duty. He was not on the field as often as I would have liked to have seen him. So I've got questions. Still, I question, why weren't you on the field as much? Was this a situation where they just felt more comfortable taking you off the field in certain sets? Or were they trying to get looks at other guys because they knew you were going to only be there for a year? I don't know the answer to that. I can't confirm nor deny why he was on the field. What I can say is, only 1 year at West Virginia, even though the numbers really were good, I still have questions about you transitioning to the next level and how do your skills play out at the National Football League level. In the 5th round, 158th overall selection, outside linebacker out of West Virginia, Shaquille Riddick is a double. Solid pick, a lot of measurables, a lot of things you like. Want to see how this guy progresses and what kind of football player he becomes and how they try to utilize him. If he in fact makes this Cardinals roster, how are they going to use him at the next level? You go to the next 5th round selection, 159th overall selection, wide receiver out of UAB, Jamarcus Nelson, aka JJ Nelson. And so his speed is dynamite. Yeah, you call him JJ, he's got some damn speed that's dynamite, all right. And so that's the first pro. That's the first thing that jumps off the page, the screen, whatever, at you when you see JJ Nelson is electrifying, game-changing speed. 4.28 40. Yikes! He's up there in that Chris Johnson stratosphere, you know, just blazing fast. And Philip Dorsett was clocked at a 4.28, the wide receiver out of Miami. His 4.28 don't look like this. Okay, this is some legit 4.28. I think Philip Dorsett is more like a 4.33 on game day. This is 4.28 any day. This man gets out of bed and I bet he runs a 4.28 to the bathroom. I mean, this dude is fast. And so explosiveness is his next pro. Explosive. He's explosive. Okay, 27 career touchdowns at UAB, the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Okay, 27 career touchdowns, 19 of those. Okay, so you're talking about over 2/3 of these went 40 yards over. 40 yards or more, 19 times out of 27 touchdowns. That's what I call explosiveness. That's what I call game changing. That's what I call a playmaker. Solid hands, okay? For all of the exploits that this guy has, we talk about the speed. I'm gonna talk about his return ability and what he brings to the special teams side of things. For all of the other exploits that he has, you forget about him actually being a wide receiver and what he does there. He can catch the football. I think his hands are really solid. I think you can trust this guy, even over the middle. And I'll talk about why you probably shouldn't, but I actually think you can trust this guy. And one of those reasons is he's got solid hands. Tough guy. You want to be a tough guy, make big bucks, dig on me. You kidding me or what, man? He's a tough guy, okay? And his size leaves a lot left to be desired. But when you're running that fast and guys are afraid of your speed, they're going to back up and give you some space. You got to be willing to go over the middle sometimes and take shots. This guy is not afraid. And when you're a punt returner, when you're a kickoff returner, I already said this before and I'll say it again, you got to be wired differently to do that. That's not a safe profession, okay? A punt returner and a kickoff returner, you got to run full speed and you got to be fearless and you can't be afraid to take a shot. JJ Nelson, not afraid to take a shot. He's a tough guy. Special teams demon. This is where he's going to make this Cardinals football team. This is where he's going to carve out a niche for himself. I could easily see in 3 years us saying he's the best special teams player in the league, a la on some Devin Hester type stuff. Now, will he rise to the ascension and the level of Devin Hester? Devin Hester may have single-handedly punched himself a ticket to Canton, Ohio, special teams only. Devin Hester may have done that in his career. Nobody else can lay claim to the fact that they're in the Hall of Fame because of what they've done at one thing, and that's special teams alone. Devin Hester may be the first. I think this guy has the ability to do something of that sort. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to change the game like Devin Hester did, because you got to put in a long body of work to be able to even mention this guy in the same breath as a Devin Hester. But I think he's got the ability to do that. 4 special teams touchdowns a season ago. I watched him against Arkansas. They had no chance against Arkansas. Don't tell J.J. Nelson that. The man had a punt return for a touchdown and almost took a kick return to the crib in the same game. We're talking about SEC speed. And this guy was smoking those boys, making them look like they were standing still. He's got electrifying speed, and it just shows up each and every time he touches the football. You go to his cons. He's 5'10", 156. Let me say that again, because maybe you didn't hear me. Maybe it went in one ear, out the other ear. He's 5'10". That's not a problem. Guys are 5'10", 156 pounds. Soaking wet. Okay? So, right there, he's a frail body boy. Okay? But, with that speed, and I told you he's a tough guy. You don't expect him to be a tough guy, but he is. And so, he's not going to be the biggest threat as a receiver because of that size, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bruce Arians didn't sneak him in the game, you know, and allow him to run a 9 route and fly by somebody, take the top off the defense, and catch a deep touchdown. It would not surprise me if he catches a wide receiver screen, they block it, and this guy takes off down the sidelines, turns into a kick returner, and they don't catch him. Would not surprise me in the least, but because of his size, the next con, he's limited as a receiver. I mean, I don't have to explain that to you. I'm not going to explain it to you. It's self-explanatory. You go to the last con, he has suspect ball tracking skills. Now, for all of those touchdowns that I told you about, there were some plays in there where I was scratching my head like, how did you do that? And that's not in a good way, okay? There's one play against Rice, okay? This is from 2013. Ball's in the air, and yes, it was a terrible throw by the quarterback. He had one to the outside on the corner route. If the quarterback lays it outside shoulder, touchdown, he walks in the end zone. But the quarterback kind of threw it all funky. It was like on the inside. So J.J. Nelson, expecting the ball on the outside, realizes the ball's on the inside, so he turns this way. Then he turns back around this way. Then he turns back around, and the ball literally hits him in the bicep. The commentator doing the game says, I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. The ball just hit him in his bicep. I said, hey, count me in on that one too, buddy. I've never seen that. I've never seen a guy running and the ball literally hit him in the arm. Had he just saw the ball, it would have landed right in the breadbasket. He wouldn't have to do anything but just open his arms and invite the football in. Come on in, man. Have a seat. But he didn't even know the ball. He didn't know where the hell the ball was at. There was another deep ball. He's running. And I don't know if he lost it in the lights or what. But the ball wasn't on the money. But he could have stretched out his arms and caught it. And he just was running, and then at the end, he just put his hands up, and the ball landed like a yard and a half, maybe a half a yard in front of him. And I'm like, did you even see the ball? I mean, you could have dove or anything. He didn't do anything. So his ball tracking skills, there was one pass behind him, and he kind of went, you know, dove and tried to catch it as he's running in the opposite direction, and it just looked funky. His ball tracking skills, they leave a lot to be desired. I think he could be a lot better at that than he is. But I'll tell you a quick Bruce Arians story, then we'll move on to the next player in this draft, the last player in the draft. Bruce Arians, and I think this is one of the reasons why he was drafted. Bruce Arians says he's at his daughter's track meet at Alabama State in high school, and there's this one kid winning all the meets at Midfield High School. And he's like, who is this kid? Why is he always winning? It was J.J. Nelson, and he was smoking the competition then. He's smoking the competition now. In the 5th round, 159th overall selection, a wide receiver out of UAB. J.J. Nelson, for me, is a double. Brings a lot to the table. I question how much of an impact he's going to have as a wide receiver. He will end up on this roster. If he stays healthy, he will make this Arizona Cardinals football team. You go on to the 7th round, the final pick in not only this Cardinals draft, but the entire 2015 NFL draft. That's right, this is Mr. Irrelevant in 2015. 256th overall selection, tight end out of Louisville. Gerald Christian is that selection. Now, 6'3", 244 pound tight end, has reliable hands. That's the first pro. I feel comfortable saying that because the next pro catches in traffic. Generally speaking, he's one of those guys not going to win with a lot of athleticism, not creating a lot of separation. So he has to have the ability to catch in traffic, and he does. I feel like he's one of those guys, you throw him the football, generally speaking, he will catch it. Solid as a blocker. To me, he's an all-around solid tight end. Doesn't do anything great, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he does everything good enough. And as a 7th round pick, he does everything that you would expect out of a 7th round pick. Can block a little bit, can catch a little bit, but does nothing out of the ordinary. He's solid as a blocker. Solid collegiate production. Only 2 years at Louisville. Spent his first collegiate year in Florida. Transferred from Florida, had to sit out due to NCAA regulations and rules for transferring. And then had 2 good football production years at Louisville. 60 catches, 810 yards for 9 touchdowns while at Louisville in a 2-year span. So got a little bit of the Teddy Bridgewater effect there that first year, and then last year was able to make some noise as well. So this is a guy that can do a number of things and gives you some special teams value as well. And I think, again, when you're a 7th round pick, you better make an impact and an imprint on the team, on special teams, or you won't make this team. And so Gerald Christian going to have to come in and show what he can do on special teams. And I'll tell you this much, it did not help that the Cardinals just signed, as of today, a tight end like Jermaine Gresham off the street. And we know Jermaine Gresham was a Pro Bowler just 2 years ago. So you're talking about a guy that is coming off of a major knee or injury or some type of injury. I don't think it's actually a knee injury. But he had surgery. Teams had questions. That's why he's on the street so long. This is a guy that a lot of teams were sniffing around. I heard the Bears were sniffing around this guy. So were the Minnesota Vikings. So there were a lot of suitors for his talents. The Raiders were interested at one point. This is a guy that can play football at a relatively high level, can do both block and catch the football. So it doesn't bode well for a guy like Gerald Christian to make this roster. And not only do you have to contend with now Jermaine Gresham being on his team because they signed him to a 1-year deal. He's going to make this roster unless he doesn't check out medically, which I'm pretty sure they already put him through a gamut of tests to sign him to the contract that they did, even albeit a 1-year deal. He's going to be on this roster. You got to expect Troy Nicholas, your 2nd round choice of last year, to be on this roster. So that's 2 tight ends right there. Then Darren Fells is the guy that maybe he'll be on this roster. He was up there last year. He's a really good blocking tight end. He could still remain on the roster. And you got a guy like Ifeanyi Moma, who used to be a wide receiver out of Boston College. He's like 6'7". He's making a conversion from wide receiver to tight end. He's put on a little bit of weight. He's a project, but a fun one that if you put it together correctly, you could uncover a gem there. So he could be a guy that could get some looks throughout this preseason. And if he performs well, a guy like Gerald Christian could be on the outside looking in. But you go to his cons, limited athlete, I've already explained to you. And Ifeanyi Moma was one of those height, weight, speed specimens. Came into the league as a 4'4" guy at 6'6", 6'7", 225 pounds or so. Now he's up to 240 and some change. He's probably still running a sub 4.5. That's a scary proposition if you're Gerald Christian now that they've signed Jermaine Gresham, but he doesn't have any athleticism. I mean, he's a limited athlete as Gerald Christian. He's not going to win with a lot of speed or quickness out of his breaks. He's very stiff as a receiver, not a lot of wiggle. He's not a fluid athlete, so he's got to catch it in traffic like I talked about earlier. Not going to create a lot of separation through him just running out there and being more athletic than a defender. So limited athletically. And then the final con, I've already touched on this, but I'll reiterate it again. He's good at many things, great at nothing, okay? And so he doesn't separate himself from the pack at all. At least Ifeanyi Moma can say, hey, I'm an athletic freak with extreme size. Cut me. Okay, I'm going to do everything I can to sell you on why I should be a member of the Arizona Cardinals, but I've got some raw ability that you can't teach. Gerald Christian has none of that. At least Darren Fells can say, hey, I'm a legit blocking tight end. Gerald Christian, once again, that's not his avenue. He can't lay claim to that. He's a solid blocker. He's a solid receiver, has solid athleticism. None of them stand out. So it's going to be hard for him to crack this roster if one of those other guys lays claim to that third tight end spot. Maybe the Cardinals are interested in keeping 4 tight ends. We shall see. I seriously doubt it. And I think he's going to have to beat out Afani Moma and Darren Fells for that final tight end roster spot. But in the 7th round, 256th overall selection, tight end out of Louisville, Mr. Irrelevant, Gerald Christian for me is a double. He's a solid football player, and what are solid football players? Doubles. And so that rounds out the Cardinals draft. Let's look at what Arizona was able to put forth in this draft. As you look at their totals for this draft, 2 home runs, 2 triples, and 3 doubles. 3 doubles nets you a doubles bonus. You tally all of that up. The 2 home runs nets you 8. The 2 triples nets you 6. 8 plus 6 is 14. 4 doubles equals 8 more. Add 8 to 14, it's 22. You divide by the 7 selections. It all totals up to a 3.1 triple for the Arizona Cardinals. And that's going to do it for me here in the 2015 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, as I am finally finished. This was the last one. I've got the others on ice. So that's a wrap, folks. It has been a wonderful, tremendous process. And so the Arizona Cardinals come out of the process with a 3.1 triple. As Gerald Christian was Mr. Irrelevant, they are my actual last production, but they're not last in the series. Let's see who will lay claim to that in the 2015 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. See you next time. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.